On the night of November 13th, 2022, the quiet college town of Moscow, Idaho was settling in after a typical Saturday evening. Moscow is a small community nestled in the rolling hills of northern Idaho, home to the University of Idaho. With a population of just over 25,000, it's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where neighbors chat over fences, and students frequently walk home from late-night library sessions or parties in the calm, starry streets. It was a place where nothing bad ever seemed to happen. As the chilly autumn air rustled the golden leaves of the trees that lined the streets, students and residents alike prepared for a peaceful end to the weekend. The University of Idaho had just wrapped up midterms, and most students were winding down, ready to relax before the beginning of another busy week of assignments, exams, and extracurriculars. But the tranquility of Moscow would soon be shattered. In a small off-campus house on King Road, an unimaginable crime was unfolding. Inside the house lived several University of Idaho students, including Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Zana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. They were a tight-knit group, each with their own aspirations, dreams, and friendships, ready to embark on the rest of their lives after graduation. Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogan were best friends, inseparable since childhood. Their bond had been forged over years of shared experiences from high school to their university days. Both were outgoing, vibrant, and well-loved by their peers. Kaylee was known for her infectious energy and passion for life, while Madison was the life of the party, always bringing joy to those around her. Zana Kernodle was another member of the household. She was known for her adventurous spirit and positive attitude. Zana, a junior at the University of Idaho, had a bright future ahead of her. Her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, a freshman studying at the university and a member of the fraternity system, was often seen visiting her. Ethan was well regarded by his friends and classmates as a kind, caring individual who had a great passion for life and his community. On that fateful Saturday evening, Kaylee and Madison had gone out to a local bar in downtown Moscow, enjoying some drinks and catching up with friends. They were ready to wind down after a long week, but they couldn't have known that their last night out would be their final one together. Zana and Ethan also spent the evening with friends before returning to the house. The night was like any other, nothing out of the ordinary. But what happened next would change everything. By 2 a.m., Kaylee and Madison were on their way home. They had called an Uber and returned to the house around 3 a.m. After an evening of laughter, dancing, and fun, they were ready to rest. The two roommates arrived back at their off-campus home exhausted from the night out. Zana and Ethan, already asleep upstairs, were unaware that a predator had been watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. At around 4 a.m., as the rest of the town slept, the brutal violence began. The killer entered the house undetected. Forensic evidence would later reveal that the attack was swift, and the victims were caught off guard in their sleep. The killer, using a knife, moved from room to room. Kaylee and Madison, who had been sharing a bedroom, were both killed. Zana and Ethan, too, met the same fate. 4 lives were snuffed out in a span of minutes. It was a calculated act of violence, one that would stun the community and leave the families of the victims devastated. The quiet house on King Road remained eerily silent throughout the morning. It wasn't until later that day that a surviving roommate woke up and discovered the horror that had taken place. She was alarmed to find her friends dead. The authorities were contacted immediately, and officers from the Moscow Police Department arrived at the scene. What they found inside the house shocked even the most seasoned law enforcement officers. 4 young students were brutally murdered in their sleep. At that point, no one knew who was responsible or why this had happened. The case immediately caught national attention. The small town of Moscow, Idaho was gripped by fear. How could this happen here? The Moscow Police Department quickly reached out to the Idaho State Police and the FBI for assistance. With such little evidence and no clear suspect, investigators faced a daunting task: uncover the truth behind this horrific crime. In the following days and weeks, the town was filled with uncertainty. Local residents, college students, and families were terrified. The question on everyone's mind was, who could commit such a brutal act, and could the killer be lurking in their midst? The investigation began. Detectives, forensic experts, and agents from the FBI worked tirelessly to piece together the details of that horrific night. They combed through evidence, interviewed witnesses, and reviewed hours of surveillance footage from nearby businesses. Yet the investigation went cold. No solid leads emerged. Weeks passed with few clues, and the fear within the community only grew. Students who had once walked home late at night in safety began to travel in groups, locking their doors and keeping a watchful eye on their surroundings. But then, on December 30th, 2022, something changed. Authorities announced they had arrested a suspect, Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old criminology PhD, student at Washington State University, located just a short drive away in Pullman, Washington. Bryan Kohberger had been living in Pullman, Washington, just across the state line from Moscow. A graduate student in criminal justice, Kohberger had been studying criminal behavior and criminology at Washington State University. His academic background in criminal psychology raised disturbing questions. Could someone with such an understanding of criminal behavior be capable of committing such a violent act? But how did Kohberger get connected to the murders? It was a breakthrough discovery in the investigation. Surveillance footage showed a white Hyundai Elantra, a car that matched the make and model of Kohberger's vehicle, near the scene of the crime around the time of the murders. This would prove to be the first major clue that would lead investigators to Kohberger. Further investigation into Kohberger's whereabouts revealed disturbing details. His cell phone records placed him near the crime scene multiple times in the days leading up to the murders. He had been monitoring the victims' movements, analyzing their behavior. It became clear that Kohberger was more than just a random suspect. He had been tracking the victims in the weeks prior to the murders. In days leading up to his arrest, Kohberger had been traveling across the United States, reportedly in an attempt to escape the mounting investigation. Law enforcement caught up with him in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania during a family visit. Kohberger was arrested and taken into custody, facing 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. Once Kohberger was arrested, further forensic evidence linked him to the crime scene. DNA found on a knife sheath left behind by the killer matched Kohberger's DNA, confirming his involvement in the murders. What followed was a shocking series of revelations. Investigators discovered that Kohberger had been obsessively following the victims, attempting to make contact with them on social media, and likely had been fixated on their routines. His fascination with criminal psychology and criminology, subjects he had studied intensely, appeared to have played a role in his motivation. Some experts believe Kohberger may have viewed the murders as an experiment, a way to test his knowledge of criminal behavior and evade capture. As the investigation unfolded, Kohberger's background became even more unsettling. He was described by peers and professors as intelligent but socially awkward, someone who struggled to connect with others. Despite his academic achievements, there were warning signs that hinted at a darker side to his obsession with criminal behavior. The case would soon capture the attention of the nation, with constant media coverage and speculation surrounding Kohberger's motives. Was this a case of a man so consumed with criminal behavior that he sought to make a name for himself in the world of true crime? Or was there a deeper, more personal reason for his attack? For the families of the victims, the legal process became an agonizing wait for justice. Kaylee, Madison, Zana, and Ethan were more than just statistics in a headline. They were loved ones, sons, daughters, friends, and students whose futures had been stolen in the most violent way imaginable. Their families spoke out, determined to see justice served, but the emotional toll of the case was immense. As the investigation into Kohberger's actions continued, the community of Moscow struggled to come to terms with the tragedy that had shattered their sense of security. Bryan Kohberger's trial is still unfolding, and the questions surrounding the case remain unanswered. What motivated him to kill? Was it a desire for infamy? A twisted sense of justice? Or was there something more deeply troubling behind his actions? As the case moves forward, the world continues to watch. Investigators, psychologists, and the public alike are eager to uncover the full truth behind the events that led to the murders of 4 innocent young people. If this story has captivated you and you want to dive deeper into the chilling details of this case and others like it, make sure to like this video and subscribe. By doing so, you'll stay informed as we continue to uncover the unsettling truths behind the world's most shocking crimes. Together, we'll follow the investigation until the very end. Stay with us as the search for answers continues.